after, so I would know.
I didn't know.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
It was like, it was like
And, you still a member on there?
makes me feel.
No, probably gonna have to join up. That road is good.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we ready? Call this meeting to order. 6 o'clock. We have a quorum. Over the clerk.
Dear Lord, we just thank you for today. God, we thank you that you just kept everybody safe over the summer. Pray that you keep the students, the staff, everybody safe through the school year. Just give them a renewed energy for learning, for teaching, for serving the students, for serving the district. God, pray that we would just make the right decisions for the district, that you would always lead us and guide us, that you would get the glory and honor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Army to Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay. Consent agenda.
All right, we have several things in the consent agenda. We need to approve the minutes from the July 9th meeting. We have several deeds that we need to approve. We also put in there our 2025-26 eligibility calendar and report card schedule, which shows where students gain and lose eligibility. And then our T-test appraisal calendar, how we're going to do those observations, who the observers will be for the school year. And then 4-H, the adjunct teacher, so we have that agreement for us to be able to have our kids count 4-H as an extracurricular event for us.
For Josh and Trey, all familiar with the deeds, how that works.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody just puts a bid in the county, on the sheriff's sale.
Yeah.
It's a good thing because it gets us back on the tax roll. Right. It's a bit off of us. It helps everybody in the tax.
And I believe it's two separate packets of deed, well, there's three, I think. One of them has like 19.
Yeah. Looks like they're buying one.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a recommendation, a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passed. Okay, we move on to our regular agenda.
All right, Ms. Kirksey's been working really hard on our budget and our tax rate, and so she is going to share information about what our proposed budget and tax rate for the 25-26 school year is.
So I got the notice to get to Tara so she can post it. We have to post it, and it has to run for 10 days prior to us adopting it. And so we wanted to make sure we had plenty of time since it's a once-a-week paper. What we're posting is that we're going to go for the tax rate of 0.7478 for M&O and then 0.479090 for INS for a total rate of 1.228690, which is the highest that we can do without having to call an election. I will always try very, very hard not to have an election because I know that gets crazy. But we're going to talk about that. I just kind of wanted to let y'all know what is getting posted, and then we're going to go through the workbook. So I am on page 3. That shows that our taxable value for 25-26, it fell to $132,490,831, which is a decrease of 8.47% over the previous year. The freeze adjustable tax rate fell to $128,410,513, which is a 0% decrease over the preceding year. And honestly, our values are low. We're more than likely going to be assigned state values in January, which will affect our funding from the state, and we'll talk about that. But as you can see, 91% of our tax dollars comes from Hutchinson County, and then Carson and Moore make up the 3 and the 6%. On the next page, it talks about the notice of what we posted. And with us going with the 1.22689, it will be an increase of 1.6% from last year's tax rate that we passed. However, if y'all wanted to, in order for us to maintain the money that we need to collect to pay our debt payment and also for M&O to run the school, you could come back and say, well, let's not raise it all the way to the highest point, let's do the 1.22540. And that will allow us to maintain what we need to in order to collect the money to run our district. It will still be an increase of 1.04%. But I wanted to put that out there for y'all to look at, to think about. There's not any action taken tonight because, like I said, the notice has to be out there for the public to see, and we'll host a public meeting for them to come and talk, and then that will be the night that y'all will actually adopt it. And then we're going to move over to general revenue. Based on the revenue that you try to figure from tax dollars, that is it's supposed to say like 0.0%, or it says 0%, but it's like 0.34%. That is the SHARS, which is federal. But on our local revenue, most of the local revenue comes from our property taxes, and then our interest that we get at Happy State Bank, and then the athletic activities that we have, the gate money that we charge. That's where the local money comes from. And then the state money, that's where we get most of our money. And how we figure that is we ask the genie, no, I'm just kidding, we don't ask the genie in the bottle. There is a template, it's called Omar's template, but it's really big and complicated, and I would explain it to y'all, but y'all would all go to sleep. But that helps us kind of determine how much funding we will get. And so that's where the state money comes from. And then the federal money comes from the School Health and Related Service Program, which you'll hear SHARS. I know when I became in school finance, people use acronyms, and I was like, speak English. So I wanted to kind of tell y'all what that is. And what that is for students who qualify for Medicaid. If we have services that we do for them, people come, occupational therapists, things like that, we can submit that and get reimbursed. And so we didn't have it last year. There was some things that weren't met that we could have to get that, but we are in compliance this year, and so we're able to get that again. And honestly, the 40,000, I just kind of looked back over the years, and it's gone anywhere from 25,000 up to 75,000, and SHARS is so up and down with the new regulations. That is just an educated guess on where I came up with the 40,000 on that. That's a lot of school finance.
Our
Yes.
ADA, 650 what we scored this year.
I'm sorry.
On our ADA is 650 what we had this year, or does that number change?
It's what they say at TEA, it is higher, but I'm more of a conservative person because I know that if you inflate your numbers and then enrollment comes back and it's not that, then that again affects your funding. And I know we have a fund balance to be there as our safety net, but I like to keep that safety net as solid as possible. So I was conservative, and I did use 650 on that. Mr. Garrison and Ms. Searles and I talked, and we felt like that was a pretty good number.
So what is ours this year?
That we based it on last year, or
Or last year,
Last year, we based it on like 640.
And the state was up thinking about what, so were they saying like 712 or, I mean, theirs was number was higher, so we didn't want to go that high.
Yeah.
That's way
Not,
No.
And also on the tax rate, I forgot to say that, on the property tax, I was conservative on that. Our values were 132 million, I can't remember, but I inflated it 8% because at least it raised it. So when we do get assigned state values, we are going to lose state funding because that's just a given. And so if it's inflated a little more than what we're saying our certified values are, it helps offset some of that we'll lose. Do y'all have any questions on revenue? Okay. On the expenditures, we're looking at for 25-26 expenditures right now, 11,186,787, which is a 10% increase from the preceding year. On the breakdown in that chart right there, that is just for payroll. And as you can see, 11, function 11, it's for instruction. If that's going to be your teachers, your paraprofessionals, that's where that is. So it is, and I put the number so you would know how much we're looking at. Function 12 is going to be our library. Function 13 will be Miss Carr. The 23 is going to be our principals, 31 counselors, 33 nurses, as y'all can see. I just kind of wanted y'all to know, I could put the term that we use in our accounting book, but I figured I like it simple, so I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. But the increase for the instruction is because of House bill, and the increase for the 3 or 4 year teachers, the 4,000, and the 5+ years, the 8,000, and then the stipend that y'all voted to approve for the stipend scale that we had, the 4% increase for the at-will staff and the 3% for the salary admin staff. So, of course, our salaries are gonna go up because y'all wanna take care of your people. Do y'all have any questions on that? The next graph is going to be all of our expenditures based on the function, which is where it's going to, and then the object, and that is determined whether it's payroll, professional services, supplies, or other operating expense. And you can see where we are on that. And then the other one is the percentage of the budget for the object code, which will be the payroll, the professional services, supplies, and other operation. Our payroll is 64% of our budget, and the professional service 8%, supplies will be 6%, and other is 7%. As far as professional services, that's like if we hire somebody to come and do something, when we buy curriculum or computer programs for the kids to use to help instruction, that's what professional services is. And then the supplies would be your everyday things that you may need for you to do your job. For teachers, the supplies they need in their class, for maintenance, the things they need to mow the grass, that's what that is for. And then the other one just catches everything else. So the notable expenditures is, of course, the House Bill 2 updates for the teacher raises and the other staff increases. We have added some new items. One of the big ones that we added was to our maintenance, because a lot of the equipment that they're running is very old, and they've repaired and repaired and repaired till it's getting to a point that they can't repair. And so we need to start upgrading mowers or tractors, things for them to be able to do their job. We've also added for the custodians, because they're using old equipment as well. So there was a few things that we've kind of added in that maybe we didn't have last year. We added some supplies for our counselors when they do the testing, because they like to give the kids snacks, because if kids have a full belly, they do better. And so instead of now the principals or somebody having to get the snacks, it's actually built into the budget, so they could go buy a box of Chex Mix to hand out on benchmark testing or testing day. The added funding, of course, is going to come from our CTE allotments, early education, and the safety allotment. Those are going up. And then, of course, they're going to help with the teacher raises. But as we found out, we've gotten guidance, and if a teacher doesn't teach the 4 core hours, then we're not getting that allotment for them. And I don't want to be the one to say, well, these people teach this class, and they have so many hours, but coaches, y'all don't, y'all aren't getting it. If y'all want to do that, I'll let y'all. So that's another reason. And then, of course, we had put that in there last year about the $65,000 because we were going to have to update due to Windows 10 going out and upgrade all the computers to Windows 11. But this is going to be something that we're going to keep in there because now we need to start replacing the Chromebooks for the students. And I've talked with Zach, and we'll replace a little at each campus every year. And so $65,000 will help cover for that. So the overall synopsis is there's 2 tax rates that you're able to look at. The one that is posted, the 1.22689 with a 1.16 increase. Or if you want to come back and say, no, let's do the 1.22540, and you'll hear the crowd cheer, it will be a 1.04% increase. Our anticipated revenue will be $11,769,068. Anticipated expenditures $11,186,787, which could mean that y'all would actually pass a surplus budget of $574,181. But you want to take into consideration that when the state values come in, some of the funding will go down, so there's the cushion built in for that. And then as far as budgets that y'all will have to pass, you have to pass the 199, which is our general operating budget, the 240, which is our food service, and then our 599, which is our debt service. On the workbook, it is strictly just for the 199 budget, and I printed the report, or I put the reports in for the cafeteria and the debt service. And right now, what we're looking at in food service is a $103,597 deficit budget for the food service. So that means that we would have to move out of 199 to 103,597, which would also cut into that surplus budget. And honestly, to pass a balanced budget in food service, it's not done in the state of Texas anywhere. You can talk to any school and they're like, you only have to do 103,000 or the amounts that we do, because I know that there are some schools that have to do over 300,000 or more. And then on the 599, it is showing a deficit, but I'm going to go in and make that where it will be balanced. And then the only thing that would affect it is if we didn't collect all the taxes that we're estimating on that. Do y'all have any questions? Do you have any questions on specific items in the budget? I have my computer and I'm willing to look up anything if y'all have any questions. Because this is just an information thing, because I can tell you the numbers are probably going to change because we bought our band uniforms. Y'all did the amendment this year for us to buy our band uniforms, and they're actually not going to be here until September. And so we've only paid like $2,000 on our band uniforms, and so we're going to have to pay it out of next year's budget. So we didn't spend it this year, it just goes back in, but I wanted to budget for it next year, so there's no amendments. And so we're having to put it back in our budget, and I did that this morning. So I know that some of the numbers are going to change on that. I just had already started my workbook and I wasn't ready to start over yet.
She's put a lot of hours in this, so.
I appreciate you dumbing it down and making it make sense, for sure. Sometimes it gets super overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming for me sometimes, a little.
Okay, any other questions for that? Okay.
So, well, I have just clarification, not really a question. So when you're talking about the 4 core subjects, is that, you're talking about the 4,000 and the 8,000 that the state's coming? So they're only gonna pay us for
Yes.
just the ones?
We got clarification yesterday, and they said they have to teach 4 hours of academic or CTE courses. Their planning period counts because planning periods lead to instructional practices. It helps them, get ready for their instructional process. And passing periods also count. So when you figure the minutes, that means they have to teach 4 full classes plus have a conference. And so there are several people we're gonna get a hit on, and we'll have to absorb the costs. And so that's what I was talking to Coach Bennett earlier today about, if there's any coaches that are maybe in an extra athletic period that could be in a class teaching, we need to make sure we're doing that. And so we've already talked about looking at that, which, some we know we're gonna just have to absorb anyway. So there may be one coach we may have to try to finagle into another core class to help, and it's an $8,000, every $8,000 is a big deal. And so when we looked at it, there's, I think, one coach we can maybe take out of an athletic period and put in a core subject, which also helps balance classes out, make classes smaller, which we want anyway. So we have been looking at those numbers today too. But that came in yesterday, the clarification.
That's what I thought she said, but I
Yeah.
just,
And also the allotment is for that, but y'all also gave them their steps, so.
Right.
So there is some of the raise for the teachers that they're getting next year that we have to pay for.
I was expecting, should have been expecting the
Okay, discuss and possible action on policy changes, FD local and FM local.
All right, so FD local and FM local is our homeschool, whether we're gonna let homeschool students participate in UIL extracurricular activities. We tabled that last time. Does anybody have questions about that before I make a recommendation?
Do you all get the information we asked for?
And I'll send it to us.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that.
Yeah, and there, you can choose to let them, but there's a lot of stipulations and things will have to come up, guidelines and things we'll have to come up with if that's what you choose.
There's a lot that the state doesn't, they say it's not a UIL issue, a lot of the things. If we choose to allow it, we don't have to let people from out of district in. It's up to us if we choose to do that or not. There's some guidance on, they have to meet like a standardized kind of testing to show as they're coming in. What else? There was another one we talked about. It was, if they were to like be enrolled in school and then jump out in homeschool, they weren't eligible this year, that same calendar year. I'm trying to think what other questions we had.
I think y'all asked if it affects our
Okay.
classification. It doesn't affect that. Not yet. I could see that being something they would change.
It could.
That's gonna be.
It could next year.
One thing I could say too, it could affect, current students trying to leave, and still be eligible to play, but not have to meet the, be in school. And we don't want our enrollment to drop. That would affect us financially there as well. I'm trying to remember what other questions. Those are the ones that stick out in my head. was a frequently asked questions document that I had sent, help with some of those, very specific answers as well.
Okay, with it. Anybody else have a question?
Everybody okay?
So this is to,
Well, I'll have to make a recommendation first on the actual, the policy.
Okay. I have a recommendation.
Okay, so my recommendation for FD local and FM local for homeschool students to participate in UIL activities is to not allow participation. I don't think it's the best interest of our district. I would prefer students come to school and, you know, help be in our population and, you know, that's my recommendation.
Okay, I have a recommendation, I have a motion.
I move to approve the changes for FD local and FM local as presented.
Motion by Stacy, I have a second.
Second.
Second by Chad, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passed. Okay, we discuss possible action on the Sanford Rich ISD home free policy.
Yes, and so we talked last time, we talked about how we would want the phone-free policy to read. I took those policies that you guys looked at from the other schools and created one. One thing I added in today, because there was, the model policies from TEA did come out yesterday or the day before. It is included that lunchtime is part of, they can't have their phones out at lunch either. If they're on campus, the way I wrote it was, that's, yeah, it's, yeah. Look under district expectations, device usage. I wrote a little caveat because I did put in there that they can't have it out during the school day, but I put high school students who leave campus during lunch do so at their discretion. While off campus, the school does not monitor or assume responsibility for student cell phone usage. I don't know how we would possibly monitor that if students leave campus. You know, on campus, they keep them in their backpacks and, you know, they continue through the day. We just, you know, if they're out, we have to take them, and we follow the policies, like the punishments that we discussed last time. Those are in here. There was several schools, I don't know why they would ever want to do this, but several schools are putting in an optional procedure where you can limit students' use of cell phones on extracurricular trips, games in the evenings, UIL when they go during the day, you can make them not have cell phones then. We don't have to put that in, so I chose not to put that in because I think it's very hard when they're like at UIL and they're all over the place and they're trying to get from one event to the other, or at football games, how do you, or cheerleading, or, you know, whatever, how do you tell them they can't have their cell phones out? You know, and a coach could say we don't want them out before games, but we don't want to put punishments on it, I guess is my biggest thing. We don't want to be monitoring and taking away phones, in my opinion, you know, at that point in time. And so I kept it as minimal as what we had to comply with the state's requirements.
Okay, I have a recommendation, I have a motion to accept this policy.
I move that the board approve the 2025-2026 SFISD phone-free policy as presented.
Motion by Stacy, do I have a second? Second. Second by Josh, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, we're going to discuss possible action on policy changes for FNCE local.
So FNCE local is actually just the board policy about cell phones. So it just updates the board policy manual on how we are instituting the phone-free communication devices.
Anybody have any questions on that? If not, I have a motion.
I move to approve the policy changes to FNCE local.
Motion by Chad, do I have a second?
Okay.
Second by Stacy. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Discuss and possible action on policy changes on EFB local, an alternative.
Yes. EFB local is the new library and instructional materials policy. There's two different options, and I chose the one that coincides with how we currently handle library and instructional materials. What we do now is the librarians look through lists, they choose books, teachers put input on those books as well. I would put it as curriculum director, so Jennifer will have input. And so it keeps it just basically as similar to what we have now. Parents have a right to request access for what books their students are reading. Parents also have the right to say, I don't want my child to read this book under this policy. The other option that I chose not to put in was an option to create a committee. It's once you create the committee, you're required to have it for 3 years minimum, and it takes away the right for schools to choose on how the books, and it gives it to a small group of parents. This doesn't take away from parents, and so this still parents have input and gives teachers input, and the committee is not necessary at the moment on how we do things. It works well. And so that's why I'm recommending that we just go with the EFD local alternate.
Okay, any questions? Okay, I have a recommendation, I have a motion.
I move to approve policy changes on EFB local alternative as presented.
Motion by Stacy, do I have a second? Second. Second by Josh, all in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Discuss and possible action on the 2025-2026 student code of conduct.
All right, so the student code of conduct really has not changed from the last several years, other than adding in the new policies for the phone and things that go along with that. So it's really, TASB sends this one out, and we just added in our policies and things like that to make it match. So really, there's nothing other than what we've done in the past.
Anybody have any questions? If not, I have a recommendation, I have a motion.
I move to approve the 2025-2026 student code of conduct as presented.
Motion by Chad, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Logan, all in favor? All opposed, motion passes. Review the 2025, that's, okay, review the 2025-2026 student handbook.
All right, student handbook, same thing. It's, TASB sends it out, we update it to update names and dates, and really nothing has changed in the handbook other than the phone policy.
So we don't approve it.
Right.
We're just made aware of it.
Yep,
so.
yep.
Yeah, we don't get
No,
vote on that.
no.
Okay, so we'll move on to reviewing the 2025-2026 discipline matrix.
Yes. So the discipline matrix, we looked over this with the administrative team, and we did not actually change anything in the discipline matrix from last year. We had the option on the way vapes and e-cigarettes are used on the class 3 behaviors. For the first offense, as a district, you could have chosen to take, last year they made it mandatory for you had to put DAP for the first offense. This year, they changed it where you could, first offense, you could change it to ISS. Well, they made it 10 days ISS. You had to do 10 days ISS, or you could do DAP. And we felt like putting them in for 5 days DAP was better than taking them out for 10 days of class. And so we want to keep kids in class as much as possible, so we chose to keep the discipline matrix the same and leave that 5-day DAP option for them.
All right, anybody have any questions on that? Okay, we're gonna move to discuss possible action on budget amendments.
And there's not one. We thought we were gonna have one, but it comes out of September, so there's not a budget amendment for this one, sorry.
Okay, we'll move on to campus reports, athletic director. He looks like he put something in here first.
Yes, he did. He wasn't able to make it. They had a team dinner or something like that tonight, and so he just wrote up some information for you.
Okay. District reports, business manager.
We went over that with our workbook.
Director of operations.
Yes, sir. Just to give you kind of an update on bond things and that nature, and when we do our tour of facilities, you'll see that, but they should have the playground done by the time school starts. They'll be missing one piece of equipment. It's supposed to come in the 20th. They'll get it in as soon as it comes in, so I don't know if you've driven by and seen it, but it looks pretty neat. I mean, I'm very pleased with it. So the work on the elementary is going well. They're actually coming we're going to do the punch list on Friday morning of the stuff they've already completed. And then when the architect's here on Friday morning, we're going to go over and look at the high school and discuss the next phase, and so they can get us, you know, the quotes and those types of things for what that'll cost. So I'll meet them on Friday morning. Our Guardian team had training last week, and you know, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the Hutchinson County Sheriff's Office, the Fritz Fire Department, and Borger PD. You know, our chief Jessica Kay. You know, she's doing an outstanding job working with us. You know, before I didn't feel supported at all, and they do a great job of helping us. And you know, I've got cell phone numbers of all of them. I can call anytime. I talked to a guy we worked with the other day for about 15 minutes of the night over some things that, you know, he saw and I saw, and some ideas we have on training. So, you know, it was really good, and I appreciate those guys spending their time to work with us, and appreciate our Guardian team. I mean, you know, we started at 8 and didn't get done until 5:30, and it was a long day, but it was a good day. And then, you know, once you see our facilities, when we do our walk through here in just a bit, you know, you'll see that our maintenance and our custodial staff have been working really hard. I mean, you can look out at our football field. It hadn't looked like that in 20 years, I bet. I mean, it looks really good. And so they're doing an outstanding job, and I appreciate them. And Mrs. Searles and I, we watched some videos over the Federal Impact Grant, and Doug's not here to ask his questions, so we do have some guidance now. So if we can get the documents we need from the government, we have to go through the Park Service and possibly the Department of the Interior. So you can't. The application doesn't even open until December, and so I feel pretty confident that we'll have what we need by then. So I hope so. I mean, we're going to work our tail end off to get it done, and so other than that, I think things are going well. We're ready to get rolling. So.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Ms. Searles?
All right, well, been trying to figure out this job and all the things that entail with it, but it's been a lot, and we've been meeting with our principals, and we've had some trainings, 504 trainings. We have done our backpack fills. We went and did some volunteer work. We're going to try to do more being service to the community and volunteering where we can. And our students, or our new teachers start tomorrow, and we're ready for them. We're having a new teacher orientation tomorrow afternoon. Have our breakfast Monday morning for our teachers and some trainings. Next week we're going to have, what's his name, come out to do the craze training.
Bob Gordon.
Yes, he's going to come out. All the staff in the district are going to do some sort of a craze training, and it helps staff actually know how to respond to an emergency situation. And so that will be good for them. I guess they did it with Porter and Sonnet, and they felt like it was really good. And so we set that up for our teachers to have some actual hands-on training in situations as well. We've been working on getting schedules finalized with the principals, and I'm going to meet with Justice of the Peace next week over truancy and talk about that and how the policies are. So lots have been going on, and just touring the facilities, and super proud of how everything is looking. It's very nice.
Okay, thank you. We'll set the dates for a call at a regular meeting. We had an item come up too late to put in tonight's meeting. Well, y'all seen the text from Kim about trying to have one next Wednesday.
Yes, and it really may take 5 to 10 minutes max.
We just need to readjust our meal prices.
So as long as we have a quorum here, it won't take us long. We'll just meet at 6, unless y'all want to meet early. 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I'll set that up.
A regular meeting,
We were hoping we could set that for the 27th, is that right, Courtney? Wednesday?
So the 27th will actually be a called meeting. That will be where we will adopt the budget and the tax rates.
Yes.
That's the 27th.
27th call meeting, yes, for the budget.
Do that second.
No, Wednesday at 6.
we got one, short one Wednesday, the 13th, and then plus 27th for the tax.
Thank you for making it. I don't know how more people. It was an email. Did it? Okay.
They usually can see them on
Yeah.
Okay, so the September regular meeting,
Yeah, I did that. See you all in December.
oh yeah, y'all got a big turnout.
Mm,
Remember that?
So anybody have any suggestions? You want to stay with the Wednesday, or you want to try to do it on a different time?
Wednesday works best for me with football practice. Get out east.
Okay. All right, so 6 o'clock, September 10th.
Work.
So the called meeting for the tax, that's the 27th at 6? Okay, and of this month, right?
Yes.
I'm like,
We
we're
have
going.
we have to have.
I know,
that.
I'm like, wait, all right, so Meet the Eagle is the 9th, right? And then Meet Teachers is the 14th.
yes.
And then, which one is the stadium and is that the
That
first?
29th, we'll do the new staff meal.
Is that was my question,
Yes.
where are we gonna, somewhere in they fit?
Yeah, we'll do this new staff meal in here, and then invited Coach Ware and Coach Moose and his families to eat with us that night as well. And then that'll be at 5, and then at 6 we'll have the field naming ceremony and unveil the sign and that type of deal. And then I know they're coming, so they'll be here, and so it'll be a good thing.
I thought we would smoke pulled pork and then make sandwiches and just have that we would not flip burgers that whole night because it was so hot that last time. Yes, 5. Yes, it was terrible. So we thought pulled pork, smoke it all night and just have it set out and make sandwiches. First thing I'm thinking of.
Just a thought on the September meeting, that's homecoming week. And I know there's usually an activity, and I'm not about to bring it up. So Wednesday night.
Yeah, I didn't think about that one.
I can come, I'll be covering glitter.
FYI.
I won't be here.
That'd be the
Yeah, so the 17th would be better.
17th. 17th work for everybody on
September 17th.
Glad you thought of that. I
Yeah,
didn't even think of that.
Is it third?
No,
No, no.
3rd of December,
Third of December. Okay,
September, October,
So we'll
November.
go move it to the 24th.
The 17th?
I'm
The
sorry,
20th? I know, I'm like, what is he?
It's
Okay.
the 17th, right?
17th.
Okay.
Oh,
Y'all-
my
Somebody's
All
confused.
screwed.
That sounds scary. I'm like, I'm not gonna go.
Logan didn't like the 17th, so I'm gonna try.
Well, he doesn't like any day till December,
he
so.
ain't gonna like none of them, you're right.
We can-
17th, 6 o'clock.
6:30.
Be here, be square.
We do it at 4 in the morning?
That's fine with me. It may not be fine.
Legally, you can do it.
As long as it's.
I'll be up.
Okay, so, we'll move to the tour of the schools.
You, sir.
Good, you bet.